Hi, I'm Ian. This is my first YouTube video, so if it's not too clever, don't shoot me. Proud owner of a Rocket 3, 2007, sat over there. My pride and joy. Just before Christmas I bought myself a bike lift and wanted to actually get the bike lifted up off the ground for cleaning and maintenance. Found that it's very unstable on a standard bike lift. I'll show you mine in a moment. But it's a fairly generic bike lift that you can buy from eBay in similar size. Now what you actually need is a bike lift bar that secures onto the bottom of the frame. I decided to make mine, and I've just showed it to a friend of mine actually, Ron, who was also suitably impressed and now wants me to make him one. So I thought they're really that easy to make, I might as well share it with fellow Rocket 3 owners. And if you're good with an angle grinder, all you need is some old angle iron, a decent welder, a drill, a few nuts and bolts, and a can of black spray paint or whatever colour you want, just to make it look nice when you're finished. And you can build yourself a really nice attachment for your bike that takes a moment to fit. Doesn't take that long to actually make either, but it takes a moment to fit and will hold your bike up very safely indeed. So hope you find this of interest. Leave messages or questions underneath if you wish. On with the video. Right, I want to show you what this is all about really. This is the tool here. Standard piece of 2-inch heavy gauge angle iron. This is actually like from an old bed frame. And all you've literally got to do is make a mount this end with a pin on it. And mount this end with a pin on it that you can screw in. It really is that simple. I've cut a profile out here. It's kind of hard because my screen's in reverse, but there's a profile here and a profile here, which I'll show you in a moment. Will actually allow you can put this on the bike while she's on the side stand, and you slot it into one of the locating holes in the bottom of the frame there. Lift this end up so it lines up the frame. Literally it taps on the frame. There's a tiny little mark you might be able to see where the frame has just sort of scuffed it. So you put that ending up on the bike, lift this end up, screw this in, and it sits on the bike. And then you slide the bike lift in like this, and then literally once you've got the bike lift under there, as soon as you start pumping, it lifts the bike level and straight up. So I'll show you now how this works, and then I'll show you how to make one, because the next one off the production line is for my mate Ron. So production line, probably only going to make 2, maybe 3, because I've got another buddy with a Rocket as well who lives locally, and he may well want one too. So next shot you'll see is me actually attaching this to the bike and then putting the bike lift under it and lifting the bike up. Right, I hope you can make some sense of this. This is my baby. It's about as far back as I can zoom out with this camera, but hopefully you get a gist of it. Obviously that's the noisy bit, that's that big sticky bit at the front, and there's an even bigger, even stickier bit at the back. Oh, this is a Campbell 6-way exhaust, by the way, which is awesome. You can take the baffles out of it. Not that I ever would on the British Highway Course Officer, but it sounds bloody awful. Awesome, I mean, with the baffles out, but probably a little bit too loud actually, if there is. I never thought there was such a thing as too loud until I experimented with the baffles out. Anyway, this is what we're looking at. This is one of the mounting lugs on the offside of the bike, and if I can get through to the other side, you may see, if I can move the light, over on the other side of the bike, there's the other lug hanging down there. So yeah, that is definitely it. So what we've got to do now, if I pull back with this, there's the mounting bracket. You simply screw this lug out, and all this is a bit of 10mm stud bar, couple of nuts cross-locked onto there, which is sufficient. And then we get down. This is the only bit. I mean, I'm 175 years old and I can do this, no problem at all. So we're looking back at from the back of the bike now. You can see the far side stud. What I'm actually going to do is just move the light so you can see it better. Now, see, I'm going to present that up into there. You can see it. That goes in the hole. Not bad one-handed because I'm holding the camera with the other one. Pull it through. And if I come back to this side, just move the lens out, the camera out, the light out of the way, get there in a minute. Hopefully you can see now, this one goes up, and doing it two-handed is so much easier. But you just wind that back a bit, put that in there, do the nut up, and you want it so it just comes through the other side. You can see that stud is all the way through. Hopefully you can see it. So that stud's all the way through on there. This one is doing up nicely, and then when I'm all the way through, just pop a finger around the back. There's the finger, fickle finger of fate. That is it. It's in position. That's ready to go. Right. Be right back. Still see this. This is the proprietary bike lift that I got from eBay. Nothing special. Lumpy old bit of kit. I think it cost me about 65 quid. Fairly standard piece of kit. It's a little mod you can do on these, which will make things an awful lot easier. This one has been modded. I'll show you how to get the bike up, and then before we go into making the bracket, I'll show you a little mod on here which will give you about another 20-25 mil of ground clearance. It actually lowers this down a little bit more, and I'll show you that in a moment. But this is how simple this is to use on the Rocket with this mod. Simply pick up the bike lift, line it up to the back edge, the back of the mounting bracket, the one with the two V's cut out. Those V's will sit in between these two bolts, which gives it stability whilst under the bike. The front edge is sitting straight on the sump, but most of the weight is on this back edge, and the way this sits on the lift makes it very, very stable. And literally you just pick this up, get it right up against the back edge of the angle iron, give it a bit of a shove, pull the bike up. It's still on the side stand, wiggle the bike a little bit to get it in, there we are, until it's level on the outside edge with that. Put it back on, let it go back onto the half on the bike stand, now half on the lift. And this is the clever bit, because you simply just change the angle on the camera so you can see what's going on here. Won't be a sec. Okay, now the only thing that's changed is the camera angle. Right? There's no jiggery pokery going on. I'm not going to do anything with the bike other than rest my hand on the handlebars, mainly for my own peace of mind. As I jack the bike up, it's now level. It's not on the side stand anymore. And you simply pump, and up she comes. Now how simple is that? You can let go of the bike, it's very stable, it works really, really well. I've now got probably 16 inches of ground clearance under the front and rear wheels. Look at that. How easy is that? It can't be easy, can it? One thing I would recommend, I don't know about your bike, but my one sits very, very tail heavy. There's an awful lot of weight in this rear wheel, and it sits really nicely balanced with both wheels on. What would bother me is that if I want to remove the rear wheel, all of a sudden I've lost all that weight at the back of the bike. It's going to want to tip forward. When I said it was stable, it is. Whether it's stable enough to support the bike without that big chunky old rear wheel, I don't know. So if I was you, I'd be looking to build an auxiliary support to either go under the engine bars if you've got them, or up under the headstock. Simple frame to locate up into the headstock. There is a bung in there that you can take out to give the bike fore-end stability. I haven't tried this yet, but I'm pretty certain that you'll be able to get the front wheel out without too many dramas. But again, a simple support under the back wheel is all you're going to need, because sideways it's pretty good indeed. So there you go. Now lowering the bike is similarly simple exercise. I don't really think I need to move the camera from there, because I think you can see it is as simple as lowering the jack, as slow or as fast as you wish or dare, tail end lands. I'm stuck on one of the safety clamps on this lift. This is live TV, folks. Just jack her up a little bit, take the weight off of that. Right, tail end lands, front end lands, almost on the side stand. Tip the jack up. Job's good. It's that simple. So that's what it is, how it works. Now I'm going to show you how to make it and the little mod that I did on the actual bike lift itself, and let's start with that, shall we? Right, now we've got the beastie up on the workbench. You can see this arm here, which is one of the main lift arms, and I can lift it up to demonstrate. That's in the extended position. Move that out of the way. And the bike lifts up, she's up there. That's great, but what we actually want is minimum height when it's down. Now in its standard configuration, this bike lift, these are a real pain in the ass, I'm going to mod these. That will go down to about there. And then what happens is, here and here, it fails up. There's a little bar in here that I will show you. And what you need to do is this mod. So if you open it up, and I'll show you the mod in more detail. Just grab the camera. Bear with me. Right. Now then, there is a crossbar here on the top part of the bike. This is the main bed that the bike lifts on. This is the side that goes on that the bike mount goes on, and your bolts are going through here and through there, and this is the side that's carrying the sump of the bike. Now when you lower it down, you want to get the thing as low as possible to the ground so you can get it underneath the bike without any hassle. I have heard of guys riding the bike up on blocks. You don't need to do it with this simple mod. The places where it fails is underneath here, this bit of the bike lift, and this piece here fails there. And this is all I've done. I've taken a V out of there. I've not taken too much strength out because there's a big old chunk of bang line here. It's welded there, it's welded there, and we've got the same this side. So you can see what I've done. I've taken a small V, and it is a small V, that's probably about 15mm tops. I've also just V'd out very slightly this side and that side, and that accommodates this little fella here that goes across. So you'll see now as we go down, just fold these out of the way. As the bike lift goes down, you can now see where that bolt is. Sorry, I told you it was this one, didn't I? It's not, it's this one. This little bolt here and that one there. I can show you better on this side. This one and this one. You've got these V's under here to accommodate this bolt. And we've got the same here. These are the V's. They accommodate this. And you can see it as it goes down here. For the final part, that's now sat. See, it sits in that V. You don't need to take that much out. You really don't. What it does do, brings this right down onto the wheel. But these are smooth casters, so the amount of friction that this causes on that wheel is inconsequential. But it does give you, I measured it and I think I made it nearly 25mm from there to where it was up here. And believe me, that makes a huge difference when you're trying to get it on the bike or under the bike. So that's the mod for the bike lift. There's the distributor, by the way. Give them a quick heads up. It says, well, that lifts 1,500 pounds. You can see there, this lifts 682 kilos. You're looking at 350 wet. So it's well within the capacity of this lift. And as I say, I've got it on eBay from this company, and it probably cost me 60 quid, something like that. And it was a good £60 well spent. Right, now I'm going to show you me actually making, and it'll be just snapshots of me making the actual bar. Right, most of this is about dimensions really. There's a couple of critical dimensions as I see it. If you can get those dimensions right, then you're onto a winner. Probably the two most critical dimensions you're going to come up against are from the inside of that face to the inside of that face. This one is exactly 340 millimeters, and that allows me about 5 millimeters of sideway play. So, and bear in mind, the closer you can get this to the edge of the frame, the less weight there is on the pin, because it's obviously, if you apply 150 kilos there, it's less likely to bend than if you apply 150 kilos out there. So you want to make this nice and snug, and as I say, you can see for yourself quite probably. I'll show you the camera. That's 340 mil. So that's really what you're aiming for. The steel bar, 50 mil by 50 mil. It's approximately 6 mil thick. That's what you're looking at. So this is quite a hefty bar. Overall, externally, it's 350 mil long. So that's what you're looking at. 350 that way. Maximum 340 that way. This top pin here, this one, if you can see it, is 25 mil long. That is actually an M10 bolt with a shank. I've screwed it in there, cut the head off, just turned a little start on there, stuck it in the electric drill. Job done. Wound it in, tacked it in, easy. That's a 10 mil bolt. Sorry, that's a 10 mil nut. Welded on there with a half decent weld. Again, 10 mil nut on this side with a half decent weld. M10 bar, and believe me, all you need are a couple of nuts locked together. You can put a T handle or whatever you want if you want to make it really Gucci, and it really is made out of scabby old metal. Now, the other critical measurement is from the centre here of this, from the centre of that to this plate. Now you may be able to see on there, I've got a little rub mark on there. That is absolutely ideal. If you can measure that accurately enough, and I would suggest you check this measurement against your own bike frame, but what you'll actually see is this pin isn't taking any weight. The weight is actually being taken by this plate, and that's ideally what you want, because then you're not going to chew this thread up either. You'll put that thread in there, it'll go through the nut, out the other side, thus. The bike isn't sitting on there, it's sitting on there. So you're not going to eat this thread. This bike's been up and down a good half a dozen times on this piece of mild steel M10 tool station stud bar. Other stores are available. But you can see the weight is not on the stud, it's actually on this plate. So try and get this measurement as accurate as you can. If I measure this one now, because I can't remember what it is, my hole centre from the surface of this plate, from here to the middle of the stud bar, is exactly 15 millimeters. That one is 18 millimeters, and I haven't got the rub mark. I'm less worried about this one because there's no thread to screw up, but ideally that could have done with being about 5 mil lower ish. But as I say, it's such a snug fit, it's such a sturdy piece of bar. This was a much higher grade steel. You can get away with that one not rubbing, but now the next one I make, they'll both be 15 mil centres. It was kind of experimental, that one was close enough. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to cut this to shape. I'll cut these out. Now these here are designed to exceed the centres of the bolts that are on the side of the bike lift. The side that comes up, because it comes up that way. My bolts sit there, so they sit about 15-20 mil in from here. So that's about where you want your bolts to be. Then leave yourself a little bit of clearance. But sorry about that, it's my phone. That will also ensure that this, every time, pretty much sits bang in the middle of the bike. So So next thing I'll do now, I'll cut a piece of metal to shape. I'll cut these and weld them on. Job done. But I'll show you next, once they're cut out, I'll come back to the video and I'll show you me positioning them. Then I'll tack them up, try them on the bike, and if I'm happy with them, then I'll run a full weld all the way around. So be right back. Just a quick interruption here. I've just mounted the stud bar, just mounted the angle iron in the jaws of the vise. Look at the condition of this. This really is a crappy old piece of angle iron. It's a bit more substantial than a bed frame. This has been kicking around in an old shed that I've got for 15-20 years. The previous people left it behind when they moved out, and I kept it because one day it'll come in handy, and now it has. But you go from that to that in no time at all. And it's a simple case of replicating these measurements onto there, cut it with an angle grinder, clean it up, weld it up. So I'm going to cut the main 3 component parts now, and then I'll come back to you. Right, hi again. Done a little bit of cutting out now. We've now got the actual base plate, which is cut out. Looks a bit cleaner than it did before. Quick, it's amazing what you can do with an angle grinder. So that's cut to the prescribed length as before. We've chopped these 2 out, deburred it obviously. So that's ready to go. Cut 2 of these. That's still actually very warm. So we've got these 2. And these are your 2 mounts that are going to go on there, cut as per. Next job is to drill the holes. Remember, 15mm from there to the centre of the hole, not from, don't measure it on the outside. If you've got 6mm angle iron here, you want to be 21mm from that face to the centre of the hole. So I'm going to drill those up, set it up. I'll give you a quick look at it before I tack it up, and then afterwards when it's tacked up. And then all I've got to do, once I've drilled the holes, I'll put the bolt through with a nut on it, which holds the outer nut in place, and then just run a little weld around the nut each side. That keeps the outer nut on. I'll show you that one in a bit. So that's where we are so far. It's probably taken, I don't know, this has got a time on it I think, this video, but it's probably taken no more than an hour to make it so far. Be right back. Right, here's a quick heads up for you with reference to the studs that come through the side of these plates. You can see now I've drilled the hole, 15mm from there to the centre, but because it's 6mm plate there, you can measure 21mm from there to the centre, which is what I've done. Now what you've now got to do is weld this nut on the back of the plate. Whoops, hang on, camera's gone to sleep. What you've got to do is weld this nut on the back of this plate, but you want to get it in exactly the right place. Simple way to do this, remembering the nut goes on the outside, not the inside. But this time we'll put our bolt through from the inside. And by the way, I lied, these are 12mm, not 10mm. Don't know where I got 10mm from, must have had a long day back at the shop. We put our chosen nut on the outside, just literally nip it up tight. Now all I've got to do is run a little weld around there just to hold that nut in position. That thread will fit beautifully on the other side. And with the other one, you may recall on one side I said I had a bolt in there that I'd cut off, and it had basically put the shank on. It's exactly the same. There's my bolt. And all I'll do with this is pass it through the pin, cut this off, and just run a double weld around the head. So this one you put in from that side. You see it's a nice snug fit. Cut the pin off, literally just short of the thread. It's about there. It's a perfect length to go through the bike. It'll sit in there beautifully. What I recommend you do with this one is either put a couple of bigger nuts, sort of M16 nuts down the outside, or a bit of tube and another nut on the end. Just pull it in nice and tight, and then you can get a decent weld around there. So that's how you weld that up. So I'll do that, and then I'll show you them tacked in position, and then obviously you do a final test fit. And if you're happy with everything, you can weld it strongly. If you're not happy with it, you can just grind the tacks off, make your final adjustments, tack it, test it one more time, and as I say, if you're happy, weld it up. So the next bit of it now will be to mount these on weld the nuts on, tack weld these on, so I'll show you that when I've got to that bit, which won't be very long. I wouldn't have thought, although I've got to get my welder out yet. Right, here we are almost at the final stages now. Tacked up, tack weld in there, tack weld in here. What you've got to do, make sure these plates are absolutely at right angles to this. It'd be a tiny bit out, but get it as close as you can. And that one's at right angles. The other thing that's important here is to make sure that these centres, these are aligned on the bar. If you've got one further forward and one further back, the bike's going to sit crooked on here. So what I did, I basically got 2-inch bar. I've set my square at 3 inches. You come in, into the centre of that is 2 inches. Then you come this side, working from the same side. Centre of that bolt is 2 inches. So I know that they're perfectly parallel to the bar. So I'm now satisfied with that. That magic measurement, 340mm, and that is bang on. So I'm happy with that. All I've got to do now, these nuts are all welded up, as you can see, welded on the outside. Simply got to trim this one now and just put a nice little round on it so it makes it easy to enter the hole in the chassis. Weld these round, make them nice and secure, and because this is for a friend, on this end of the bar, which you might be able to see here, on this end of the bar I'll just put a little T-handle on there, just so his delicate little fingers can rotate this, and he's probably going to watch this video at some stage and kill me for saying that. And then once it's done, cut a black paint, jobs are good. It is literally that simple. So that's it in a nutshell. You don't really need to have me show you how to spray these things. Proprietary paint. I use this stuff satin black. You can get it from Toolstation. You probably get it from Screwfix as well. This stuff is brilliant because it doesn't need an undercoat. It's a little bit like Smooth Right, I guess, but you spray it on, it dries in no time at all. If it's a nice warm evening, you can probably handle it in half an hour. 24 hours it reaches its maximum hardness. It looks pretty good. It's handy for odd bits and bobs on the bike. They do it in black, white and silver, I believe, so it's quite handy stuff to have if, like me, you tinker with the odd bike from time to time. So that's it. If there's any more you need to know, by all means ping me on YouTube. As I say, the dimensions I'll probably put at the foot of this video, but basically your critical length is 340mm between centres. You want to use M12 bolts and studs, not M10 as I said previously, and the rest of it is really easy. So have fun, and once you've got your bike polished, have fun out there on the road and keep it shiny side up. Speak to you again, I hope. Cheers now.